Wrestlemania 1962 by Cotton-Eyed Joe. Chapter 1. John F. Kennedy was sitting in his office. It was a torrential downpour outside and almost midnight. The rain was falling fast and hard, and John heard something. Something that did not want to be heard. He whipped out his pistol, the one with the word Betsy inscribed on the side, and took one shot at his 7 o'clock. He turned to see a hooded man, clad in black, with a large and quite recent bullet hole in the middle of his forehead. John knew he was already successful, but he took another shot to be sure. With another bang, the opponent's heart and trachea ruptured. All three, Kennedy thought. He'd incapacitated all three organs required to make sure a wizard is dead. As blood flowed over a badge denoting a special division of the Ministry of Magic, the body collapsed onto the floor. Being President of the United States was hard, but JFK was harder. John giggled to himself at this, since it sounded like a joke about erections. The CIA officers, having been observing via CCTV, proceeded in once they were sure the wizard sent to kill Kennedy was dead, and cleaned up the mess. The wizards will die soon enough, Kennedy thought. Soon, they'll all be dead. Chapter 2. The Dark Lord Voldemort was sitting in his office. Great, he thought. Another assassin. Dead. His assistant, Susan, with a Z, walked in. She dropped the latest pile of paper on his desk and walked around to stand next to where he was sitting. More trouble? She inquired. Yes, big time, said Voldemort. Can you believe it, Susan? This John F. Kennedy dude, just President of the United States is himself, and decides, wizards must be bad, so he decides to kill every last one of us. Who the hell does that? Well, said Susan, who did not understand rhetorical questions very well. We had some problems a couple of years back with that K-pop clan, or whatever they're called. Never mind that, said Voldemort, who after those events had a crippling fear of racists. What's important is what's going on now. Voldemort stared into Susan's eyes dramatically, hoping yet again for her to realize that he was mimicking a love trope. Susan smiled with her eyes almost pointing in different directions and said, "Okay," and walked out of the room, trying to figure out what exactly was going on now, since no one except for Voldemort ever seemed interested in her enough to tell her things. Voldemort got frustrated easily around Susan. He was, indeed, totally yandere for her, but she simply didn't notice. She never seemed to notice much. But Voldemort couldn't focus on that now. He had a work with which to proceed. Chapter 3. Johanna Cena, who was definitely not a female version of John Cena, was nervous. It was her first time at a prom, and here at the Yuri and Yowie prom, and her date, a robot 1.3 times her height and 8 times her weight, was kind of standing out. Johanna may have been extremely muscular, among other attractive bodily attributes, but she was quite shy. "Are you okay?" said Robotu-sama. "Oh, I'm just a little bit nervous. I've never done this before," mentioned Johanna, blushing. "I don't think anyone even knows I like you yet." "Well, that's bunk, and you know it. Don't worry," replied Robotu. "Yes, but what will they think of us?" Johanna asked. "Johanna, I'm being literal. This is a school specifically for Yuri and Yowie. You know, gays and lesbians. We're literally expected to behave this way." "Oh, yeah, but it's all so new to me," Johanna persisted. "How do I date a girl like you, Robotu? What do I do?" "There are, of course, many options," stated Robotu. "But I suggest you follow your heart." "Oh, Robotu," blushed Cena. "It's like you always know what to say, senpai. I love you." And with a single step, she picked up the 1,200-pound robot as if she were her bride, and she strode into the prom room, cradling her girlfriend in her arms. It was then, naturally, that she and Robotu noticed the massive octopus in the middle of the ballroom. Johanna Cena and Robotu-sama looked at each other in surprise. "Oh, hey, look at that," exclaimed Robotu. "A giant octopus. Not only is it evidence of the existence of mythical creatures, a science-changing discovery, but it also suggests something icky might happen. Well, Robatu, as much as I want that to happen to me, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to defeat this thing, remarked Cena. Is it okay if I throw you? Sure. Okay, said Johanna suspensefully. Here we go! As she said this, she swung Robatu around and threw her at the unlikely cephalopod. Robatu landed directly on its face, disorienting it enough for Johanna to make her big move. She leapt 50 feet forward and punched the octopus, causing it to burst in a violent explosion of... whatever Japanese people call that octopus meat. Here, hold on, I gotta check my notes. Okay, I guess I'll check Wikipedia. Okay, can't find anything on Wikipedia. Hold on, I can use Google Translate, hold on. Taco. They say an octopus is a taco. Really? Taco? Who made that up? Anyways, that's what it burst into. Watching the security camera feed, Voldemort was quite satisfied with both of their performances. Soon he could create a magical organization with which he could save the wizards. He could name them after the mythical magical girls superhero team from long ago. He would call them the Sailor Scouts. Chapter 4. I'm feeling kind of lazy for this chapter, so I'll just make it this one paragraph. It's this big revelation. Harry Potter is the reincarnation of JFK. He ends up changing his mind about wizards while he's dead. I'm sure I'll explain this later. Chapter 5. John Fitzgerald Kennedy strode into the Pentagon. The security teams quickly got out of his way. "Morning, Bill," John said to a man he had never met, didn't recognize, would never see again, and got the name of wrong. He walked to Sector 12A and reached Elevator 12A8. He got in, sang the secret tune, pressed the secret keys and the secret combination on the secret keypad, and said his secret waifu's name. Not the name of his actual wife, but his waifu, who I don't dare name. The elevator accelerated downwards and shortly stopped again. He was in the basement of the Pentagon, where not even the most intrusive Soviets dare venture when spying, since he had covered all the walls in pornography to deter them. He walked down the long hall of pornography-plastered concrete walls, trying to remember why kids like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, until he reached the big old door at the end of the secret hall, copyright. It was so important that he had to capitalize every word in it, including conjunctions and articles, and add a copyright sign. Wizards hated copyrights, and he knew it. "Open her up!" Kennedy yelled to the microphone sitting on a podium right next to the door, placed there for dramatic effect in case someone ever wrote a crappy story about him like this one. The door clanked and whooshed, gears spun, surfaces grinded, and the clutch in the Secretary of State's car gave out just as the warranty expired. Behind the door, a large metallic foot was revealed. And by that, it really looked like an actual gigantic foot, as if it had been covered in chrome, only this was made out of mostly aluminum and fiberglass. Kennedy looked up and once again saw his scientist's creation, a gigantic, 70-foot, 4 inches tall, shiny, silvery robot that looked disturbingly like a naked man, minus genitalia. "God, that thing looks creepy," said John. "Why the hell did I hire people to give it aesthetics anyways? It looks like some guy got silver paint dumped on him and hydraulic pistons glued onto his major joints." It was indeed a pretty creepy-looking robot. Unfortunately, this was the 1960s, and the robot did most certainly not have the abilities to match. It had no weapons but its arms and legs, and it could barely stand up. During an early test, they realized they had to reinforce it when the entire thing collapsed and incinerated itself in a battery fire after trying to jump. The damn thing ran really hot, too. They had to begin operating it with the controller in the head, because the only one they tried putting in the body ended up going insane from the heat, and accidentally killed himself when he tried to use a robot arm to tear open the robot's chest. The tear open the chest part worked, but he forgot not to clench his fist after doing so. Nobody ever found his pelvis. "Hello, Mr. Kennedy," said Rugert Vaughn, who was most certainly not a former Nazi scientist. "We have finally completed every single test, and the robot performs magnificently." Kennedy decided not to ask anything about or mention Rugert's fake German accent. "Good," he said. It was 3 a.m. "Can we do a field test in the morning?" "Do you mean," asked Rugert, who had forgotten to use a fake German accent, "that we kill a wizard?" "Rugert, we've been working on this for 1.5 years. Of course I mean that." They stared at each other for 3 seconds. "Well, hurry up." "Okay." The monstrosity started up with a demonic rumble. Chapter 6. Voldemort waited in the shadows of a barn somewhere in Kentucky. "Damn," he thought. "I really need to go to the bathroom, and I haven't seen that satanic cult anywhere. How do I summon an ancient magical girl superhero team if I have nobody who knows how to ask Satan for help? Oh, it's like I can't catch a break. Oh well, at least Susan agreed to come here with me. As long as we don't make any noise, any listening members of the government won't know I'm here, and I won't have to... Wow, Christ on a bike! Is that a Jersey cow? I've never seen one before now!" Susan exclaimed at what seemed to be an already stressed and on edge Voldemort at full volume. "Look, Lord Voldemort, this one is beige. Did you know that while the females usually weigh 400 to 500 kilograms according to Wikipedia, despite the fact that Wikipedia does not exist yet, but the males can weigh 540 to 820 kilograms? Oh God, I didn't know she knew anything about cows, Voldemort thought. This is a huge risk. He then looked at the 5th cow on the right. "I bet it's your fault, 5th cow on the right. Steal my sin pie, will you? I'll abracadabra you dead when this is done, you cow. Yes, you're a cow, literally. "Oh, hey, Voldemort, your friends are here," cheered his assistant. Voldemort turned to see a collection of hoods and robes in black and red frills, borders, and patterns, except, of course, for Jerry standing in the back, who forgot it was Thursday and had his green and blue robes instead. The rest of them didn't mind, though. Everyone makes mistakes. They were a very accepting satanic cult. "Hey, man, are you okay? You look pretty pale. Also, is your nose missing?" said Roger, who had drawn the longest straw and got to be leader for the day and choose where they had lunch. "Yes and yes." "So you're okay despite your missing nose?" "Yes," replied Voldemort again. Sure," continued Roger. "So, are you the guy? Voldemort?" Voldemort stood still for 5 seconds. "Yes," he said. "Oh, good. So, who did you want to summon? Something about boats or..." "Not boats, but sailors." "But also not sailors. It's just a name," Voldemort suggested. "I'm referring to a team of magical girl superheroes lost to the sands of time, known as the Sailor Scouts. They should be able to help me defeat and or kill John F. Kennedy, who plans to kill all wizards." "Ah," replied the day's leader. "I see. So it would also be beneficial to us to help, because that means he wants to kill us and our satanic cult too, right?" "Yes," said the Dark Lord. "Also, please don't stand in the open door like that. It's like super obvious you're here. You should come inside." The multitude of darkly clad devil worshippers filed into the barn as Voldemort and Susan closed the doors and latched them. The cult looked at the intricate series of recursive pentagrams and other shapes inside each other and were very impressed indeed. Voldemort had obviously studied. This particular design wasn't even discovered until the dark wizard Mordecus created it on accident in the midst of an amphetamine-fueled rage trip. In that case, he, Mordecus, had accidentally spilled a bottle of Tylenol on it and cured his addiction. His wife had already left him, of course, so Mordecus had plenty of time to document and study the shape and behavior of the new design. Voldemort and Susan donned their cloaks to match everyone but Jerry, who, as stated before, had not known it was Thursday. They and the cult dumped lamb's blood, burning bar stools and severed toes, from what they knew not, into the pentagram plus ornamentation. Voldemort looked through storage chest number 5 and realized something. "We don't have a satanic Bible," he blurted out, worried. "Oh, no worries," said Stephen. "You can do a chant from any book. They all work for this one, really." Voldemort got out the nearest book he could find. It was just another one of his trashy teen vampire romance novels, which he didn't really read or anything and had nothing to hide about because he had absolutely no idea what it was doing in one of the chests he brought to the barn. He read the first 2 sentences and was cut short when Bill projectile vomited in disgust. Voldemort decided that was enough and threw the book into the fire made of burning stools, just as the procedure required. They all stood back, said YOLO McSwaggins collectively, and watched the light show as the summoning ritual proceeded on its own. Chapter 7. Thoom! John F. Kennedy plus various scientists and assistants was strolling across the Near East Coast countryside in the giant robot that sat right there in the uncanny valley. It looked sort of human, but was all silver and had weird pistons and big windows for eyes and a piloting area in its head. Thoom! They continued to walk around, looking for the odd wizard to kill. Hopefully, Kennedy thought, I can stop the deaths sometime soon. Letting these jokers get away is not an option. Crunch! The team in control of the robot heard the sound of splintering wood and looked down. He lifted the foot and saw a house and the corpse of a man in orange robes. A wizard! He exclaimed in his brain mind. So that's where they hide. Inside buildings! Kennedy relayed this new information to the team by way of his mouth hole. They performed a few scans and began finding the nearest man-made structures. I'll find them, Kennedy thought. Those tricksters think they can hide? Not when they're so obvious. Chapter 8. Voldemort and the satanic cult stood back from the crowd of girls in weird costumes now standing in the pentagram. Voldemort counted the Sailor Scouts and quickly realized there weren't just 8 or 9 of them. Are there supposed to be that many? Asked Susan, who wasn't quite as dumb as the rest of the story suggested, although almost. This seems wrong. Before I tell you that, said someone who Voldemort assumed must be Sailor Mars, why did you summon us? That can't just be done for party tricks, you know. Because, said Voldemort, controlling his confusion with the sheer number of people they had summoned, we are in danger. The man in charge of this nation is trying to kill all magical peoples, primarily wizards like myself. We want your help in stopping them. All right, said Sailor Mercury. This looks like a job fit for us. Now for some context. We originated quite a while ago, but since then we've had many recruits. We obviously won't turn away a good fighter, so we just use the names of any celestial body we can find. For example, this is Sailor Beetlejuice over here, and that's Sailor Ganymede. Voldemort looked around. He could see hundreds of them, making him glad he chose such a large barn. All right, said Voldemort as the cult filed out, their job well done. To start, we need to scout the area to check if anyone knows where we are. If so, we need to go somewhere else. Sailor Moon, the current leader by annual vote, took command. Okay, Sailors Mercury and Jupiter, you two look for nearby towns. Sailor Io, you, Sailor Charon, Sailor Make, and Sailor Eris all need to look after Voldemort, along with the help of anyone else who isn't set out on a mission. Sailor Rigel, you and Sailor Titan, plus Sailor Proxima Centauri and Sailor Beetlejuice need to find some booze. This is a fairly new situation, and you all know how Sailor Saturn gets angry if she isn't hella drunk. This had better not be another town without something at least 90 proof again, complained Sailor Saturn. I'm sure they'll find gallons of the hardest stuff you can imagine, replied Sailor Moon helpfully. Also, while Sailor Saturn waits, I need Sailors Polaris and Sailor Titan to look after her. You know how she is. Now, finally, anyone named after a planet, star, moon, or other singular object at least 1,000 kilometers wide at any point is to come with me and stand by, so we're ready to hit anything that wants to hit us back, and hit it hard. And I especially want you to be ready, Sailor R136A1. Your powers will be especially useful for this job. Oh, I think I know what you mean, Sailor R136A1 said slyly. Voldemort observed as a collective of at least 400 teenage girls flew out of the barn door and wondered if they were supposed to be able to fly or if the author was just too dumb to do his research. Sailor Eris, who had minor mind-reading abilities, read the text above and commented, "Oh, most of us aren't teenagers, by the way," she said. "We've been in operation for a while now. I think Sailor Moon's in her 30s, so you don't have to worry about, say, incompetence or anything." This was news to Voldemort, but didn't affect anything. He had confidence in their abilities all along, except for Sailor Saturn, who apparently couldn't function without alcohol. He and the remaining Sailor Scouts got ready to move to his office building so they could create plans and sort things out. There was also the part about getting them to induct the powerful ones he discovered, Johanna Cena and Robatu Sama. Things were still naturally grim, but looking up.